Hey, there you are. I told you I was going to be here. Module 2. Did you finish everything up in Module 1? If you're over here in Module 2 and you haven't practiced everything that we talked about in Module 1, what are you doing? You think you could just skip ahead? You think you could just skip to Module 2 and forget about Module 1? You better go back. If you didn't finish all that stuff, you need to start practicing. Remember, we're practicing. Speaking of practicing, where's your water? You have your water? You didn't grab your water? You did. Okay. All right. Get your water. Right? We're drinking. This is how we do it. This is how we start. We're creating healthy habits. Right? We're not even talking about healthy habits yet. That's next week. This week we're going to talk about habits. But first, let's take a sip. You got it? Good. Let's go. Cheers. Cheers. Good job. All right. Let's go. That's how we reward ourselves. That's how we do it. I'm proud of you. Okay, check it out. We're in Module 2. We're talking about habits today. So let's go through this. You are in Module 2 of Beyond Sober. What that means is this is Module 2. Module 2 is life is habitual. You've got to remember this. 90% of our entire life is habitual. Habit. You show up, you don't show up, you say this, you don't say this, it is this, it's that. We're going to go into extreme detail of exactly what that means. With that said, life being habitual, let's start with the actual concepts of what that actually means. 90% of what we practice is habitual. Almost everything we do is based on repetition, with different variations of the same thing every day. Over time, this becomes what we practice. Okay, so for instance, I made the bed today. Did I make it exactly the same as I did yesterday? Nope. It's got the same pillows. They're in roughly the same position. But that's a pattern. That's something that I practice. That's something you should definitely practice. Yeah, I'm shooting all over you. Practice making your bed. You might think that it's like this, just totally pointless thing. It's just a bed, right? It may be the only actual good decision you make all day long. Who knows? So we want to start our day with a healthy decision. That decision is making your bed. You know, all day long. You can go all day and you'll come back to a bed that's made. At least you made one awesome decision, right? That's awesome. So we want to get in a habit of making a healthy decision right when we wake up. Also, affirmations. You're going to want to do that too. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But the point with that is, I went live on TikTok today. That's a habit. I set time aside. I set time aside. I set time aside. I did this. From here to here, I'm going to do this thing in a different way. I didn't intend on it being different. It's a different day. So I'm a different person than I was yesterday. So I'm going to do the same version in a different way, slightly different. Because the reality, the only thing that is constant is change. So you can't expect anything to be the same as yesterday, or 5 minutes ago, or a few seconds ago. We're a different person now because that person doesn't exist. They're in the past now. Interesting how that works. So you look at the way you think, the way you do things, what you say, dropping kids off at school, making breakfast, it doesn't matter. That's considered routine. That's habitual. And we have those habits because it helps us get through the day. It helps us maintain our sanity. It helps us look forward to things. It helps us, obviously remove anxiety or get things done, whatever that is. So we just need to understand that the reason you've been doing what you've been doing is because you've created a life around your habits. Now, here's the expansive thing. We're going to create new habits around the life that you're going to live. This is the trippy part. So let's move forward on this. We get good at anything we practice, including not practicing. The repetitive nature of programming is how we get good at killing ourselves or rewarding ourselves. Practicing not moving is a skill and not a skill that we want. We're going to practice drinking water. Gotcha? Okay, get your water. Let's do it. Every time there's a good behavior, every time we learn something, we're rewarding ourselves with water. I just talked about the programming. Just talked about it, right? So we're programming ourselves to drink water, thinking healthy. Work. Good job. Okay, with that said, even not practicing is practicing. You're practicing not moving. You're practicing not creating a habit. You're practicing sitting still. You're practicing not learning. You're practicing literally waiting. You're not even practicing patience. Not practicing is something that you're doing repetitively. So People go like, oh, you've got to do things. You have to develop new habits. You got to develop all these new things. You don't have to develop 1,000 new things to stop doing the old thing. Literally, just beginning, just creating the thought that I should be practicing. I could practice. What do I want to practice? Just that alone is practice. But if we continue sitting here and going, oh, I'm just going to sit here and wait for him to do his thing and her to say that thing and all this stuff, we're practicing waiting on things to change. Nothing is going to change if you don't move. You must practice. It's kind of like silence. If they're not saying something, they're actually saying a lot. It's that same concept when you really, really break it down. So we want to make sure that we practice the right things, because here's the thing. When we're done here, if that's ever a thing, you're going to be the best at drinking water. You're going to be the best at living your life. You're going to be the best at developing healthy habits. I don't even care what healthy habits you develop over time. The point is that you're practicing those habits. You're practicing creating habits. That's more important than the habits themselves. The fact that you're going, I need to create a healthy habit, and you look at this thing and you're going, yep, this is good for me. I'm going to practice doing this. I'm going to practice thinking this. I'm going to practice going there. I'm going to practice removing this. I'm going to practice practicing. You get good at anything you practice. And in retrospect, look at all the things that you dislike and then contrast that against what you've been practicing. Have you been practicing not standing up for yourself? Have you been practicing drowning your emotions out with alcohol? Have you been practicing rewarding your thoughts with something unhealthy? Alcohol, drugs, whatever it is. What have you been practicing? And if you look at that, you can go, I'm really good at not caring. That's because you've practiced it. I'm really good at insulting people. That's because you practice it. I'm really good at getting upset. That's because you what? Because you practice it. Exactly. Speaking of practice, grab your water. Epiphany means drink. Actuality means drink water. Drink water. Get it? Got it? Get your reminders if you have to. Let's move forward. All right, not all habits are healthy, and most times we don't even know it. Just because we're thinking healthy thoughts, that doesn't mean we're becoming healthy. Many things we do are bad because we practice ignoring the truth about them. Can you think of how detrimental this actually is? I thought that was a good thing. So you've been practicing reacting to someone else's emotions, thinking that you were caring about them? Dang! Really think about that information. There's so much data that we consume. There's so many influences from so many people that think they know you or what's right for you or what's best for you. We talked about it in the last module, their acceptance. You don't got to accept that stuff. The point is that a lot of the things that we've practiced aren't actually that healthy. And the things that we believe are healthy aren't actually helping us improve our quality of life. For instance, not insulting somebody isn't doing them a favor. Not hurting their feelings knowing you can isn't doing them a favor. That's just you practicing not being rude. That's a good practice, but it's also not helping you move forward. You're not replacing that. You're not shifting that. It's not that you're just not being rude, but you're also not complimenting them at the same time. So removing some of the things that are bad for us, yeah, it's considered a good thing, but it's not moving you forward, right? So many things that people are implying we could or should do are actually helping us stay put. So we want to look at these things that you've been practicing, that we've all been practicing, and go, oh, you're right. I have been expecting a thank you every time I open the door for somebody. Instead of just doing it, not expecting the same in return. Not everybody's practicing what you're practicing. Not opening the door for somebody, pushing that shopping cart back. You're practicing integrity. You're practicing doing the right thing regardless if anybody's around and regardless if anyone's going to say anything, regardless if anyone's going to recognize. You're doing it for you because it's the right thing to do. In a general aspect, you're practicing caring about other people. That's considered a healthy habit, not just not insulting that person. Make sense? So it's very interesting. So we have to look at all the things that we've been practicing and going, oh, I thought that was good. Now you want to measure that against, is it actually healthy for you? Is it good for you? I may say, hey, drink water, and you're like, I'm allergic. That's a bad habit then. Drink coconut water. Oh, it's going to hurt me. Okay, don't do that then. But the concepts are all still the same, right? Not all habits are healthy. And, oops, I guess I've already been there. Hang on. Not doing something bad isn't doing something good for ourselves. Not drinking alcohol isn't the same as drinking more water. We've got to look at what we've practiced daily to determine if it's healthy for us. This goes back into that last point. Just because you're not drinking alcohol doesn't mean you're doing something healthy now. You're just doing less damage. Your body still has to recover. You're still punishing yourself. You're still doing these things in a different way now. Just because we're not drinking alcohol, it doesn't mean we're actually improving our quality of life. All we're doing is punishing ourselves less to provide an environment so we can make healthier decisions. So drinking less alcohol isn't equivalent to drinking more water. We've got to do both of those things. So drinking less alcohol and then putting this in our system, we're practicing healthy thoughts. Speaking of which, let's do it. All right, water. So when we look at that information, it's not just about alcohol. It could be about that drug or that person or that circumstance, that environment. Simply not doing that is putting us in a position to do something else. So if we continue doing those things or continue just basking in the concept or the idea that we're doing something healthy for ourselves because we're not hurting ourselves at the moment, then that breeds complacency. Then you're going, well, I'm drinking less alcohol, so I must be doing better. Wrong. You're just not hurting yourself as much. You may be hurting yourself equally in other ways, because we've got to, I don't want to even say replace that. Your body, that's now time that you've freed up. The time that you would spend drinking alcohol or punishing yourself with that thing or doing that thing or spending that time with that toxic person or whatever that is, that's now being replaced with what? So we've got to look at that for you and go, what do I want to fill that gap with? Me, I go to the gym, but I only go to the gym 45 minutes, where I used to spend 12 hours drinking alcohol, 15 hours a day, drink all day. But 45 minutes to an hour in the gym for me is enough to suffice, is enough to completely counteract an entire day of drinking. I have more progress and success in the gym than I ever did drinking alcohol. So once again, we look at that and go, just not drinking, just not punishing ourselves, that's a good start. But we really want to start developing healthy habits, starting with drinking water, which you're already doing. I'm so proud of you, right? Developing one healthy habit does not replace a bad one. Adding one new habit doesn't outweigh the daily trauma caused by drinking alcohol. It's about how we think about those habits and continue creating new ones. Think about this. Just because you're drinking water now and you're becoming the best at it, that doesn't outweigh the trauma that we've created for ourselves our entire life. We're just hurting ourselves less at the moment. That doesn't mean just because we're drinking water that we're actually improving our quality of life. We're once again setting ourselves up for success. We've got to go, okay, well, if I've been hurting myself like this, what's something additional? What is it? Can it be a healthy conversation? I'd like to speak to myself for 10 minutes a day. I'd like to go outside and just bask in the sun, get some vitamin D, right? So it's important that you look at your life and go, what do I really want to replace that unhealthy thing with? Some people, and I encourage this, depends on your situation, they go, well, if I stop drinking alcohol, I don't know what to do anymore. I get it. Well, I get hungry. Okay, cool, we'll eat. But I crave sugar. Okay, I get it. You can temporarily replace alcohol with something that's that's addictive. I'm not encouraging this, I'm just saying. If it's food, right? Addiction is addiction is addiction is addiction. If we help you remove your addiction to alcohol or the bad habit or whatever that is and replace it with something less detrimental temporarily, I'll encourage that. A lot of people are going to fight me on that. A lot of people are going to be really upset, and they are. It's easier to kick a less detrimental habit than it is to break a lifelong addiction. So the way that you break an addiction to alcohol or that massive substance there is the same process. It's just going to be easier. And if we have to substitute We're not going to substitute with pills. We're not going to substitute with something else that's equally going to keep us in that rabbit hole, in that place of fog. We are adding new elements that are helping us think more accurately, open our mind up, feed our machines so we feel better. When we feel better, we do better, we think better, we act better. So just removing alcohol isn't enough. Just removing the bad habit isn't enough. So far, you're rocking it. We're going to drink one more before I move on to the next one. Here we go. Drink water. Okay, moving on.